I've always felt pressured to be perfect. Grew up in gifted and talented classes, which now that I'm diagnosed with ADHD makes a lot more sense. Labored over assignments to try to get as close to 100% as I could. Tried to be the best child, friend, lover, student, supporter that I could. But I've fallen short many a time. Too many times to count. We all know the idea of perfect doesn't exist, and yet we still strive for it. The journey to perfection comes at a cost, and that cost has been hefty. I've slowly learned that in order to evolve and become the person I actually want to be, I have to let go of perfectionism. It took me a long time to even get to the point where I wanted to break down the perfectionism and viewed it as a problem instead of a healthy driver of my motivation. But this journey has changed the way I view myself, and I've started to unravel the misconceptions and the pressure of perfectionism. So, I want to share with you how I let go of trying to be perfect, how it's helped me, and offer up some tips and tricks for you to start your letting go process. The first way that I deal with perfectionism and I work on letting it go is understanding where it came from. The first step is always awareness, but particularly when it comes to perfectionism, I think you really have to do some self-work and be like, is this from trauma, from my childhood? Is this from just high expectations of myself? Is this from hustle culture? Like, where is it coming from? For me, I had to understand that my perfectionism is really rooted in feelings of inadequacy and a pressure to perform in a certain way when I was growing up and kind of into my young adulthood. Not to mention, also, if you have abandonment issues, you might be able to attest to this as well. Some of my perfectionism stemmed from being abandoned as a child and feeling as though being perfect, whatever that is, would somehow win over people's love or affection, attention, etc., which obviously isn't true. That is another tough lesson, but it is a lesson that is rewarding when you actually understand that your worth should not be connected to what you put out work-wise, even creative-wise. You are so much more than that. It's not just that wins people's love over and their devotion and their, it's not going to make them stay. Anyway, as an adult, I've been able to actually face that and face the ways that is completely untrue, but being able to do the shadow work to really understand why I felt that way and where the roots of the issue came from really allowed me to have more compassion for myself as I worked through it. And it really gave me a jumping off point to address the problem. I also had to address imposter syndrome, because that came along with the perfectionism and the feelings of inadequacy, feeling like if I wasn't perfect at something or I wasn't good at something, I didn't deserve accolades or praise or recognition, or feeling I would never be good enough to be whatever people thought I was. All of that. Imposter syndrome will get you. Okay, because it's hard. It's hard to fight the voice in your head that's like, you're not good enough at this for people to be saying you're good at it, or for you to have this thing or get this award or get this opportunity or whatever, But that's not true. Also, keep in mind, everyone that has been great at something started somewhere. You have to start somewhere. And sure, you might have natural talent and still not be perfect at something in the beginning. That's okay. That's literally human. That is quite literally a human phenomena. Give yourself grace. Embrace yourself through that process and know that it will be okay and it can get better and you will get better through time and patience and persistence, which honestly feels more rewarding anyway in the end. 3 for me was really understanding the impact that perfectionism had on my mental health. It can make you spiral. And it's very quick and it's very easy to happen because you just go down one step to the next. You start thinking, oh, this isn't perfect, so then I must be inadequate, so then I'm not worth anything, so then I shouldn't be. Like, it can get, it can go there quickly. If you really want to take care of your mental health as well, you have to confront that. And also, I think a bit of tackling mental health for me, at least, especially in the last 3 to 5 years of my life, has been the idea of really giving myself grace and knowing that I am going to make mistakes and I am not the sum of my mistakes, nor am I the sum of only my good deeds. Like, really that idea of duality in life and understanding that we will be good and bad, light and dark, and that is just the nature of this beautiful life and planet that we live on. I think it relieves some of the pressure.
And not that that gives you a pass to not be a good person or do good deeds or take responsibility, accountability for things, but taking some of that really intense black and white thinking away and having more understanding and compassion for yourself through kind of your ups and downs emotionally, mentally, and physically as well, knowing when to push yourself, when not to push yourself. All of that holistically helps your mental health, and that inevitably deconstructs perfectionism, because perfectionism tells you that that doesn't exist. Really focusing in on your mental health, I think, would also be a great tool in ridding yourself of the idea of perfectionism. This has been a big one for me. And number 4 is shifting the focus from perfection to progress. Doing something okay is better than doing nothing perfectly or doing half of something perfectly. And that has been huge for me. I have so much pre-task anxiety to start things. I get a lot of anxiety in the middle of me doing things. It takes me a lot of time when it's like creative projects or tasks or assignments to really kind of iterate on things, because I'll have a first idea and then I'll draw it out and then I don't like it or I don't execute it the way I wanted it. Saying all that to say, but if you don't get there, if you don't get to the step of starting because you're so afraid it won't be perfect, you'll never finish. And genuinely, it is so beautiful to finish something. And I know not everything needs to be finished. We don't have to worry about like completion being a metric in life. That is just arbitrary. But it's an exercise, right? That's a part of the practice of letting go, is really surrendering to knowing it's imperfect, but doing it anyway, getting it out anyway, putting up the YouTube video even though you could keep editing it for another 5 hours, because you know if you do edit it for another 5 hours, it might not get up. Or finishing the song because you know that you will, if you don't finish it, you'll never put it out. Like, sometimes you just have to put it out, good, bad, or ugly. Rally around completing a task, making progress at all. Might not be perfection in your head, but that is progress, and that deserves to be celebrated. And the more you celebrate those moments, I think the more you give yourself grace to not have to go so hard every time and be perfect. Finally, number 5 is letting go of the need for external validation. This is a big one, and it's difficult. Our world is built on external validation to some extent. Social status, monetary status, like class status, like all of these things, right? You know, people's incomes, people's livelihoods as creatives pretty much rely on people's external validation of their art. So it is definitely difficult, but I do feel like there is a connection here between the moment you let go of the need for the external validation and the ways that your art and creativity amplify themselves even more through that practice. The more that you create for yourself, the more that you create things that you believe in versus what you think people want to consume. Because I know that that's also an argument. People are like, make things that people want to consume. And in business, maybe sure that's different, but like creativity and art, follow your heart. Because if you're making something that you really, truly, deeply stand behind and you think is valuable, that has so much more value than something that just blows up, that's just viral for whatever. That will kill the perfectionism as well, because the more you create for yourself, the more you validate yourself, the less you have that pressure to perform for others and be rectified by other people's opinions. And once you take that away, if you make mistakes, who cares? You're making a mistake with yourself. It's you and yourself. And at the end of the day, that's really all it is. We are just a constant evolution of us against ourselves. All you can try to do is be a better version of you. Validate yourself. Don't let yourself falter and then give up. You can push through, and you'll be so happy you did on the other side. So I hope that those were helpful. Just 5 quick tips. I'm sure they're pretty self-explanatory to most people, but I've really been working deeply on letting go of perfectionism and trying to just stop holding myself to such a stringent standards that literally no one else is even holding me to. I think there's something beautiful in embracing imperfection, like literally embracing the idea of being imperfect, because we all are in our own ways. Remember that it really is a journey. And it's okay to take it one step at a time. Perfectionism does not have to control your life. And you can really find peace in embracing all of who you are, flaws and all. I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it to the end, just drop a hi. happy whatever day it is in the comments. And let's continue to support each other on our journeys of self-love and acceptance and deconstructing all of these things that society wants us to think are important that really are not at all. Until next time, be kind to yourself, and I will talk to you soon.